first thing we're going to do, I'm going to come over here and demonstrate. I'm going to give you an idea of what we're looking for in a forehand. So I'm going to use an Eastern or better grip, and when I say or better, what I mean by that is an Eastern with my knuckle on the side of the bevel there, okay? On the side of the racket, okay? Top there, because I hit an Eastern forehand. Or a semi-Western. Anything that moves the racket either toward the Eastern or the semi-Western or the Western is much better than a continental. And you'll have to fiddle around with it and choose what you like the most. But the point of it is we need a grip that's going to allow us to take the ball out in front. With an Eastern, we can take it here. With a semi-Western, we can take it here. With a full Western, we really have to get out in front, okay? So let's see what that looks like with, say, I'll use a semi-Western grip just because it's the most common. And we're going to show you what those three things look like. First of all, I'm going to show you with that grip, and then I'm going to show you with it out in front. I'm going to show you going low to high all one. This is what we want. This is what we're looking for, something like this. Okay, that's what we're looking for. It's that easy, guys. Grip, turn, out in front, bend, low to high. That's what we're looking for. You can swing like that this afternoon if you make these changes in your game. And I'm going to show you how we do it. First of all, the problem with the continental, we said, was hitting late, okay? I can't solve number two until I solve number one. If I try to hit out in front with this grip, watch what happens. I end up getting flippy with the wrist because I have no way to impact the ball in a way that won't throw the racket back. If I try to spin on the ball here, I end up bending the elbow and snapping the wrist to motivate the tennis ball, and that's not what we want to do. We got to keep that wrist cocked, okay? So that's the first problem you're going to run into. So we need to change that grip. So now we change the grip, and now we're going to swing the old way with the new grip, but we're going to hit the ball back here late. Let's try that. Well, now the ball goes down on the ground because it's facing down because of our grip. Let's try hitting it back here, but keeping the racket vertical now. Let's see if that fixes the problem. That gets it over the net, but we have to use our elbow and wrist to keep it on plane. See what I'm saying? If we don't tilt it here, there's no way we can't tilt it and swing forward at the same time. Okay? We have to flip if we're back here. The way we fix that is watch what happens here. I'm not going to move this grip. Now watch what happens. Just going to move my arm forward. Uh-oh. Look, racket gets vertical. And here's the magic. Now that I'm out in front and my racket is vertical, I'm not even going to drop the racket. We're just still on common fault 2, hitting late. Now we're going to be hitting early. So now we've got the correct grip of hitting early. Oh, that's dangerous, okay? That's dangerous. That's something we can work with. But, going to be done here. This would be half the battle. Just that would be half the battle. Yes, we're getting some depth. Yes, we're getting some spin. Yes, we're hitting the ball out in front now, okay? Having the correct grip and hitting the ball way out in front, if you just get those two things, you've got it over 90% of the tennis players on the planet, okay? Of the recreational players. It's what people don't do that they should. But we're going to add a third component. This is the third thing, that once people start doing the first two, this is the third thing that people just don't do. And this is what I talked about earlier when I said you're going to listen to the commentators and go, oh, that's what they're talking about. Let's check this out. This is pretty cool. All right. So let's say I've got the racket here. I've got my wrist cocked. I've got a good grip. And I'm going to hit it out in front. Watch the path of the racket. And we'll catch it. Let's go cross court 1. Okay? We're catching that ball low to high to an extent. So if you saw me hit that ball, you saw my racket went from here to here. Okay? Here to here. But the racket was cocked, my wrist was cocked, but the racket wasn't dropped. That's where we need to be. This is where the magic happens, guys. When we got the correct grip, our target is way out in front, and we actually drop the racket. This is called supination. It's the opposite of pronation, okay? Where we just come here and let the racket drop, okay? That is where we end up getting our lifting ability. That is where we end up getting our power coming up. And we end up getting our topspin at the end of that swing, okay? That's where we end up really, really powerful is at the top. So as this racket is dropped, watch what happens here as I move forward. Now, before I was here, and there's nothing wrong with that, but now I'm here. That's much better. Now the racket is lower than it was before. So it has to travel a further distance to get to the ball. Now here's where it gets really, really cool. Since it's coming from such a low place, what happens is once we get past our old contact zone and the racket starts to move forward, there's a thing called a break-even point where the racket's actually traveling at a 45-degree angle, where it's traveling as much up as it is forward. Does that make sense? It's traveling forward and up at an angle. The magic happens when the racket really starts to accelerate up, okay? That is where the magic happens. It's this from here to here, right here. This is where 95% of the stroke takes place. This is the execution right here. And there's different ways we get power here. We get a good pronation of the forearm, okay? We get a good acceleration up with the legs. We get a good snap with the elbow. And all these three combine for huge power and spin. And none of that is possible back here. That's why we've got to be out here, guys, okay? That's why we've got to be in front. You have to be. The third thing was the racket drop, but there's a kind of a 3A here. This is where the efforts multiply. Guys, if you get this, you're going to get a lot. When you add this together, it's not 1 + 1 is 3. It's 2 × 2 is 4 × 2 is 8 × 2. The results get better, they compound. So we talked about, first of all, out in front, or excuse me, the grip. The grip allows us to get out in front. Getting out in front allows us to get low and get high, okay? And with the racket down, this is good, but now here's where it gets really good. Let's say we bend our knees. Now what happens? Now we get a bigger compound effect. We've got the racket even lower than before. Now my knees are bent, so I'm going to get even more power. The racket's going to accelerate even faster. Plus, it's going to accelerate at the end where it should. And we're going to get a ball we can just kill. Now imagine the ball was coming at me, and I put all those ingredients together. Okay, that's the ingredients for a bomb. That's the ingredients for an explosion. And you can have that shot every single time if you get what I'm telling you. Okay? So let's review. Forehand, Eastern or better? Semi-Western or Western? I hate the Western. I don't hate it. That's a strong word. But I got a lot of problems with the Western because of what it just doesn't allow you to do. But let's go talk about Eastern and Semi-Western. Let's go Semi-Western. It's the most common grip on tour. It's very popular among recreational players as well that know what they're doing. We're going to review. Semi-Western grip allows us to hit out in front. Hitting out in front allows us to hit low to high for a longer period of time. Okay, we've got a longer distance. Dropping the racket, going from low to high, gets us even more, and bending our knees gets us even more. Now, what I talked about with the tennis commentator thing was this. You're going to watch a match. You're never, ever, ever going to hear a commentator say, boy, he's using the wrong grip today. Boy, that semi-Western grip's just really not working out for him today. What do you think, Mary, what do you think? You're never going to hear that. You're never going to hear them say, boy, I tell you, he's taking that ball out in front today. He's hitting that ball way too far out in front. I don't know how he's going to get through this match. And the third thing you're never going to hear him say is, well, Bob, I can't believe it. I've never seen this. He got so low on all those balls that he just couldn't compete today staying that low. You're never going to hear that, ever. You know what you're going to hear him say? Nothing about the grip, because they all got a good grip. He's late. He's late. He was late. I was a little late. He's a little late to this one. That means he caught the ball too far back. You're going to hear that all the time, especially when these guys are hitting 100-mile-an-hour forehands to each other, okay? You're going to hear he was late. That has to do with feet, but that's a different subject altogether. You're going to hear he was late, and you're going to hear he's not getting low. He's dumping them in the net. That's from fatigue. That's from legs. That's from not getting low. You can never get too low, and you can never hit too far out in front, okay? So remember that. And now we're going to show you some video now of what it looks like to do it correctly, to make sure that you're making the most of the 3 things you just learned, these common faults, and how to correct them. And you guys can get your forehand this afternoon rocking and rolling, okay? So let's do that now.